Okay, so in this video, I'm going to talk to you about depression, and I'm going to talk to you about how I think a lot of guys end up being depressed and how I think you can actually avoid getting depressed and how to combat being depressed. I have been depressed a couple of times in my life, but just full disclaimer, I've never been one that's been super prone to be depressed, but whenever I have been slightly depressed, this is what I do, and this is just genuinely what I think about depression in general and how you can get around it. So I've just seen this question on Reddit, actually, on someone who is kind of, I guess, speaking for the masses here, right? I mean, this is what a lot of young guys are like, even people that I know are like this, right? They have a car, they have a roof over their head, food, everything seems fine, but they just still feel depressed. They still feel down, and they just feel like tired all the time. They stay indoors and they don't really know what to do. They still go out sometimes, but I guess it's just that thing of not really feeling up to doing anything and feeling tired. And I've certainly felt like this before. Whenever I felt like this, I just sit inside my house and I'm just really tired all the time. Whenever I feel like this, I don't really acknowledge it to myself that it could be depression. I just think I'm tired or burnt out. So I'm just going to give a bit of advice here on what I think on this. So the first thing that I think is super important is changing the mind with the body. So this is something Andrew Huberman talked about. He talked about you can't change the body with the body or the brain with the brain. So you can't think your way out of depression. You can't try and brain power your way out of being depressed. It's heavily linked in with your body. So one thing that we know about dopamine from the science, and I'll try and pull up an article on it, I guess. But one thing we know about dopamine is that it's heavily linked to movement. So let me try and get a study up on this. Yeah, so I found this study here on dopamine and its association with movement. And this is something that I heard from Andrew Huberman again. Basically, when your dopamine is all fucked up, you literally, physiologically struggle to move. So a lot of depressed people talk about they just sit in the house and they do nothing and they're tired all the time. And one of the reasons for this, I think, is because your dopamine is either super low or it requires so much dopamine compared to the other stuff that you might be doing that it's impossible to have enough dopamine to essentially get up and go and move, right? And this is what most people talk about in terms of not being motivated and just kind of sitting around and can't be asked, I can't be bothered, can't be asked. That's just related to not much dopamine, not a lot of motivation, and that leads to literally you can't actually move. The motor neurons in your body that cause you to actually move your hands and your legs and stand up and everything is literally controlled by dopamine. And I'm not going to read this whole study for you, but I've just been reading it now for a little bit, and yeah, it seems like that's the case from the science anyway. And one of the potential causes for this, and this is the sort of next bit of advice that I'm going to give you, is you might be oversaturating your dopamine. I think a lot of depressed people don't really realize that they might have actually spiked their dopamine so high that now they're in a huge dopamine trough where they actually can't produce enough dopamine to even move. And the way this happens is when you do something like play a video game, right? So let's say I stopped recording this video now and I hopped on GTA 5 and I played that for 3 hours. Because I've not played it in so long, when I actually load up the game, I'll have a huge dopamine spike because my brain is anticipating that we're going to have fun playing GTA, right? It's going to be great. So I'll have a huge dopamine spike. And then when I'm playing the game for a little bit, it'll keep spiking up a bit more. And then after the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes of playing the game, my dopamine is going to crash. And the actual, you have your baseline dopamine here, right? Let me try and get a graph up for you. Okay, so this graph's pretty good. Basically, you can see if I loaded up GTA right now, I'd have this huge spike, and then the crash that comes after the spike in dopamine below baseline is bigger than the peak itself. So when you constantly do things to spike your dopamine's going to go down, it's going to crash. And when it crashes, you're like, oh shit, I'm sad now. And then you do something else to spike it again. But then it crashes down even further than before. So you end up just kind of gradually putting your dopamine downwards. So your dopamine just gradually goes down, like you can see from here. And literally, when this happens, you become depressed. This is like literally what I think causes depression. It's just people who spend way too long on TikTok, social media. It's people who spend way too long playing video games. It's people who do drugs. It's people who watch porn. And it's people who drink a lot of alcohol and like vape, right? All these activities are very, very like high in dopamine. So you do them all the time. Like you might be playing a video game and vaping and then drink that night and then watch porn or something. It's like, fuck, like so much dopamine, and you crash your dopamine so much that it becomes impossible to produce enough dopamine to even get out the house. And then that's a vicious cycle because you're in the house, and then what are you going to do? You're just in the house, you just play video games, you vape, you watch porn, right? And it just keeps going down, 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 down. And you end up in depression. So the biggest advice that I give to this guy who's suffering from depression, as he mentions, is go on a dopamine detox. And the way I do this is get rid of your gaming console, stop vaping if you are, don't drink for like a month, and delete social media, right? It's quite extreme, right? But I mean, depression's awful. Depression's an extreme, like thing to be experiencing, right? No one wants to be depressed. So that's quite extreme. So you need to come at it with an extreme treatment. And yeah, I would get rid of everything that's giving you dopamine right now and everything that's giving you joy. And it might make you even more sad because you're going to experience that trough at the bottom for what it really is without any dopamine spikes. And you might even get more depressed for a little bit. But your dopamine is going to gradually, very slowly, rise back up to baseline. And then you're going to start feeling good again. And you're going to be able to move. You're going to be able to have enough dopamine to go outside and to go for walks and to go to the gym. And that brings us back to the first bit of advice, which was you can't change the brain with the brain, you have to change it with the body. So in order to change the way you think, you need to get outside and move. If you're feeling a bit down and feeling a bit depressed, and you're already like not on a, you're not like saturating your brain with dopamine, then the best thing you can do is go for a walk. Get outside or go lift some heavy weights. That's like from my experience, whenever I'm feeling a bit down or like I want to record videos and I'm just sort of sat here like, fuck, I don't know, you know what I mean? I don't know what to do. I'm not feeling motivated. I'll just go for a walk or I'll just go do my gym session earlier. Like if I plan to go to the gym later on today, but like right now I'm sat to record and I just don't know what to do, I'd just go do the gym session now. Even if it's not like an amazing gym session, I'd just go do it because I would come back from that gym session feeling a lot better, a lot more motivated. Remember what I talked to you about. Dopamine is very heavily linked with movement. So if you can move, lift heavy weights, go for a walk, that in itself actually has a feedback effect and actually like helps you produce more dopamine. So they're the two main bits of advice that I'd give to this person. Go on a dopamine detox. If like what I imagine is their dopamine is very spiked, they'd probably have a lot of the bad habits, like self-improvement related habits that you need to get rid of. So I would get rid of all that kind of stuff that I was talking about, go on a bit of a dopamine detox, let your dopamine go back up to baseline, and then change the mind with the body. Go move, go for walks, go into nature, go and lift weights at the gym. And the last bit of advice I would give to you if you're suffering from depression or you're feeling sad, not motivated, is I do really think it's important, and one of the reasons that I don't really get depressed is you need to have like what's called an orienting principle or something to orient you in. And what this means is it's basically like you can't float through life without any like purpose or a mission, right? You need to have a mission. Like if you're just going day by day, earning money at your job, like in the house or on the weekends, you're just chilling out, whatever, and there's like nothing that you're like currently aiming for, I think that's a huge cause of depression. And that's why I don't think I get depressed, because a lot of times in my life, I've always had a goal in mind or a mission or a purpose, like whether it's just to retire my family or whether it's just to make enough money to go travel the world or work on this business or do the YouTube channel, like whatever it is, I've always had like something that I'm aiming for, like something, like a project that I'm working on, like something to do, right? And I think a lot of people I know and a lot of young guys these days just don't have anything to orient their life towards, if that makes sense. Like they just kind of plod along and just float through life, and they're in a bit of a rut. And I do think it's super important to actually actively look for something to do, to work on, like a project to escape into and to sink your teeth into. Right, anyway, bro, I hope you got some value out of that video. Thank you for watching. And yeah, hopefully some of this advice can help you if you are feeling a bit down, a bit depressed. I hope you can get out of this, man. Thank you for watching, mate. See you in the next one. Bye.